Hello everyone. We are going to extend what we started with conditionals. Remember, a conditional is a statement that can be written in if-then form. And we're going to expand on those a little bit today with related conditionals. The conditional I want to work on here is the players on the Denver Broncos are going to the Super Bowl. First thing let's do is let's write that in if-then form. So I could look something like, if you play for the Broncos, then you are going to the Super Bowl. If-then form. The hypothesis comes after the if, and the hypothesis is you play for the Broncos. The conclusion comes after the then. You are going to the Super Bowl. Now, a lot of times P will be used to represent the hypothesis, and Q will be used to represent the conclusion, just like variables, but they're variables for words. And the first related conditional we have with this is a thing called the converse. Now, if you'll look at the left here, what I wrote was Q implies P. This thing is implies. Or basically, if the conclusion, then the hypothesis. It switches it around. That's what the converse does. Remember your converse, those are your shoes. Imagine your shoes being on the wrong feet. You've switched your shoes around. And if I'm going to write the converse of this statement, then I'm going to say, if you are going to the Super Bowl, then you play for the Broncos. All right, that's what the converse of that statement is. I switched the hypothesis and conclusion. I switched their two positions. Now, when I look at this, if you are going to the Super Bowl, then you play for the Broncos. Is that true? The answer is, I don't think that's true. The converse in this case is false, and my counterexample would be, you could play for the Seahawks, the other team. I think I got that right, don't I? So that is the converse, and even if the original conditional is true, the converse doesn't necessarily have to be true, so you have to look at that. Now, the inverse, what that is that is not P implies not Q. So we don't change the order, but we negate or make it the opposite of what it was, the hypothesis, and we negate the conclusion. So, the inverse in this case, if you do not play for the Broncos, then you do not, or you are not, going to the Super Bowl. I'll give that some thought. If you do not play for the Broncos, then you are not going to the Super Bowl. Again, I think that is false. Russell Wilson, who is the Seahawks quarterback, does not play for the Broncos. Russell Wilson is going to the Super Bowl. Okay. The final conditional that we need to do is called the contrapositive. Now, it switches around and it negates. So, basically, the contrapositive is the, try not to be confusing here, it's like the inverse of the converse or the converse of the inverse. Alright, if that was confusing, just ignore it. But, I need to negate the original conclusion. The original conclusion says if you are going to the Super Bowl, so if you are not going to the Super Bowl, then you do not play for the Broncos. I think if you are not going to the Super Bowl, you cannot be on the Broncos team because the Bronco team is going to the Super Bowl. So in that case, I'm going to go with a big old true there. Now, I understand, I don't think I showed you the converse, the writing that much. So, if you need to catch up on that, go ahead and do that now. Now, also, I'm going to run out of time. I want you to turn the paper over, and I want you to give the next one a shot. All squares are rectangles. We'll make a geometric example and do it, and I want you to try all those, and we will check them in class. Goodbye for now.